There's a good chance you use words from this book every single day. Big Brother, Thought Police, Doublethink, Room 101. You've said them without ever opening the novel that invented them. So here's the uncomfortable question. If a book from 1949 handed us the exact vocabulary we now use to describe our own world, how much of it did it also predict? Stay with me for the next 10 minutes and you'll know the whole story, the extraordinary dying man who wrote it and why, 3/4 of a century later, you should still read it. I'm Sarah, and this is Books and Authors Explained. Today, 1984, by George Orwell. And hold on to one detail before we start. The man who wrote this book was racing something as he typed it, something inside his own body, closing in faster than he could finish. Remember that, because how he wrote it explains why it feels the way it does. The year is 1984. Racy, at least everyone thinks it is. Nobody can be sure anymore. The world has collapsed into 3 vast superstates locked in permanent war. Our corner is Oceania, Britain, now called Airstrip 1, ruled by a single party and a face on every wall. Big Brother. He may not even be a real person. He doesn't need to be. He's a symbol, and the symbol never sleeps. Every room, every street, every workplace has a telescreen, a television that watches back. It can never be switched off. It sees you, it hears you, and at any moment, a voice can single you out by name. You learn to arrange your face because a flicker of the wrong expression is a crime. They even have a word for it, face crime. This is where we meet Winston Smith. 39, frail, a quiet cog in the machine. He works at the Ministry of Truth, and his job is the perfect Orwell joke. He rewrites the past. When the party changes its story, Winston edits old newspapers, so the new lie was always true. Records are destroyed down a chute they blackly nickname the memory hole. Whoever controls the past, the party says, controls the future. And they're not just rewriting history, they're shrinking language itself. The party is building a new tongue called Newspeak, deleting words on purpose. No word for freedom, no word for rebellion. Because their theory is chillingly simple. If you delete the word, you delete the thought. A person with no language for an idea can't hold the idea. Control the words, and you control what a mind is even able to think. Then there's doublethink, maybe the most useful word Orwell ever coined. It's the ability to hold 2 flatly contradictory beliefs at once and accept both. The party's 3 slogans say it all. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. You're not meant to resolve the contradiction. You're meant to stop noticing it's there. Every day the party stages the 2 minutes hate. Workers gather in front of a screen showing the face of the enemy, Goldstein, and for 2 minutes they're required to scream, to rage, to hurl things at the image. And here's the disturbing part Orwell insists on. The hatred is real. It spreads through the room like a current, and even Winston, who knows better, feels himself swept into it. A regime that can summon your emotions on a schedule doesn't need to convince you of anything. Beneath the party sit the proles, the working masses, 85% of the population. The party barely watches them because it holds them in contempt. Keep them fed, entertained, and distracted with cheap lotteries and manufactured songs, and they'll never think to revolt. But Winston clings to one heretical hope, scribbled in his diary. If there is hope, it lies in the proles. The people written off as too ordinary to matter might be the only ones still free enough to change anything. Winston does something insane for this world. He buys a diary and starts writing his own thoughts down. Just that, a private thought, put on paper, is punishable by death. And what he writes, again and again, is one forbidden sentence. Down with Big Brother. It's the smallest rebellion imaginable, and it's everything. He's decided he'd rather be a dead man who thought freely than a living one who never did. Then comes something he'd stopped believing was possible. Love. A young woman named Julia slips him a note with 3 words on it. I love you. She's bold where he's cautious, a rebel of appetite rather than ideas. She breaks the rules simply because being alive and wanting things is its own defiance. They begin a secret affair, meeting in stolen corners, and for Winston, every touch is treason. In this world, even desire is a political act. They rent a shabby little room above an antique shop in the old part of the city, a place with no telescreen, or so they believe. It becomes their whole world. A bed, a fragment of old song, a glass paperweight Winston treasures because it's beautiful and useless and belongs to a past the party can't rewrite. For a few chapters, you almost let yourself hope. Almost. There's a senior party official named O'Brien, powerful, cultured, unsettlingly warm. Winston becomes convinced O'Brien is secretly part of the Brotherhood, a legendary underground resistance led by the party's great enemy, Emmanuel Goldstein. O'Brien invites them in, hands Winston the forbidden book that explains how the whole system really works. Winston finally feels it. He is not alone. There is a resistance. There is hope. And that's the trap. There is no brotherhood. O'Brien is not a friend. He's thought police, and he has been watching Winston patiently for 7 years. The room above the shop had a telescreen hidden behind a picture the whole time. Every whispered word, every act of love, every private hope, all of it was theater, and Winston bought a ticket to his own arrest. The boot comes down. He's taken to the Ministry of Love. The Ministry of Love is where the book stops being a thriller and becomes something you don't forget. There are no windows, and the lights never go out. And Winston's torturer is O'Brien himself, the man he trusted most. But O'Brien doesn't just want to hurt Winston or even to kill him. He wants something stranger and far more frightening. He wants to change what's inside Winston's head. He won't be satisfied until Winston truly, genuinely believes. This is the book's most famous idea, and it's terrifying because it's philosophical, not physical. O'Brien holds up 4 fingers and asks how many Winston sees. 4, Winston says. No, says O'Brien. Sometimes it's 5. Sometimes all of them at once. The party isn't demanding obedience. Obedience is easy. It's demanding that Winston actually see 5 fingers when 4 are held up. It wants to own reality itself, which brings us to Room 101, the phrase you already knew. Room 101 contains the worst thing in the world, and the worst thing is different for every person. For Winston, it's rats. O'Brien straps a cage of starving rats to his face and begins to open it. And in that moment, Winston screams the one thing he swore he never would. Do it to Julia. Not me. Her. He betrays the only person he loves to save himself. And the party has what it wanted. Not his body, his soul. The last time we see Winston, he's a free man, released, broken, sitting in a cafe, gin on his breath. He and Julia have met once since. They confess they betrayed each other and felt nothing. And as he looks up at that enormous face on the screen, Winston feels a swell of love. He has won the victory over himself. He loves Big Brother. That's the ending. Not death, surrender. The most chilling final line in modern literature, because the light didn't go out. It was switched around to shine on him. So who conjures a nightmare this complete? He was born Eric Blair in 1903. George Orwell was a pen name. And here's what surprises people. He wasn't an outsider throwing stones. He was an Old Etonian who served as a colonial policeman in Burma, enforcing the British Empire until he grew to hate what he was part of and walked away to write. He didn't just write about oppression from a desk. He went looking for it. He deliberately lived rough and destitute to write Down and Out in Paris and London. He got himself shot through the throat fighting fascism in the Spanish Civil War, and watched his own side, the communists, start rewriting who the heroes and traitors were. That betrayal, that live editing of the truth in front of him, is the seed of everything in this book. And here's the detail from the start. Orwell wrote 1984 while dying of tuberculosis on a cold, remote Scottish island called Jura, coughing blood into a handkerchief. He couldn't afford a typist, so he propped himself up in bed and typed the entire final manuscript himself, an effort his doctors believed shortened his life. He told friends the book would have been less bleak if he hadn't been so ill. He finished it, published it, and was dead within 7 months. He was 46. A few things almost nobody knows. The title was an accident of arithmetic. The book was written in 1948, and he most likely just flipped the last 2 digits to 1984. His working title had been the far duller The Last Man in Europe. His publisher talked him out of it. And Room 101? It was named after a real BBC conference room where Orwell had sat through mind-numbing propaganda meetings during the war. The worst place in the world, to him, was a boardroom. Now, why should you actually read it? Because the words escaped the book and moved into our world. We casually call intrusive surveillance Orwellian. We say Big Brother and everyone knows what we mean, but look closer and the specifics land harder than the slogans. Cameras that watch public space, devices in our homes that listen for their name, a feed that quietly edits what version of events you see. Orwell wasn't writing science fiction. He was writing a warning, and he aimed it directly at us. But the deepest warning isn't about cameras. It's about truth. Orwell's real nightmare was doublethink, a world where the truth is whatever power says it is today, where yesterday's facts can be deleted, where you're asked to disbelieve your own eyes. He understood that the final target of tyranny isn't your behavior. It's your grip on reality. 2 + 2 makes 4. The whole book hangs on whether Winston can keep believing that. So can we. So, why read a bleak book with an ending that gives you no comfort at all? Because Orwell wasn't trying to predict the future. He was trying to prevent it. 1984 is a fire alarm, not a prophecy. And a fire alarm only works if people actually hear it. Reading it is how you keep the words sharp, how you recognize the thing when it starts to appear. Winston lost. The point of the book is that you don't have to. I'm Sarah, and this is Books and Authors Explained. The affiliate link to the book is in the description.